Produced by Podcast Architects.
Hello, listeners to Victory Groove. We are very, very happy that you're back. I've got a very special guest that's going to be with us this afternoon, and we're going to talk a little bit about overcoming the challenges. That's what we typically talk about with Victory Groove. You know, we say we already have the victory. We just have to get our groove back. Today we have Paul Savardi, and he is the CEO of Insperity. He's the co-founder of this organization, and he's got an incredible testimony. Here's an example of someone who started early, married early, overcame some major challenges being in a newlywed couple and all, and had to really find their way. And Paul, I just want to welcome you to Victory Groove. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Eli. Happy to be with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm telling our listeners, and this is our second season, by the way. This is episode 2 of season 2. And as promised last year, we're bringing people who have truly found their calling. They're walking in their rhythm. And so, Paul, tell us a little bit about you and Vicky starting out so early, so young, getting married early, and all those obstacles that you faced.
Well, absolutely. For those of you that believe in or know and understand love at first sight, that's what it was for me when I took one look at this wonderful young lady. We were in high school, and we kind of knew right from the beginning. My first conversation with her, I actually talked about what life was going to be like in the future together. And so we ended up actually getting married while we were still in high school. So you talk about starting young. We certainly did start young. And it started with, a lot of challenges that come from making such a decision at such an early stage. And, but we were, fighters together. And, we had one child early on. And then we actually, when we were still very young in our teens, we had a huge life-changing challenge in our life, and that was when we had our second child, and he lived only for an hour and passed away. And we're not sure even today if his problems, he was full-term, but my wife Victoria was sick in her last month or two, and we're not sure if her illness caused his issue or if his issues caused hers, but she was in a coma at that point and had to be taken to another hospital because they were expecting multiple organ failure. And her story is incredible. She literally passed away and had an afterlife experience. And when we were in the vehicle going from one hospital to the other, that was a huge, important point for me because it was the point in my life when I placed my faith in the God above, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through my Lord and Savior, Yeshua. I call him Yeshua, the Messiah, Jesus, the Messiah. And it was in that vehicle when I lost my child that day and was faced with the possibility of losing my wife. I finally recognized in the front of that ambulance that I wasn't in control of anything. And I, repented for thinking that I was. And but I had a huge, incredible peace come over me, that seed of faith about how things would be going forward. And even though it was, really a length of time before she was back up and around, it was a huge pivotal point. I always say my best day and my worst day were the same day. The day I lost a son, but the day I gained my own salvation, my own relationship with the Lord.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you. As we look at that and the ages at the time, so can you share How old were you? How old was Vicki at that time?
I was 19. Vicki was 17.
Yeah. God bless you. And I know you all went on and have how many children you have now, and your grandchildren too. It's just amazing.
This is the upside of starting so young. We ended up having 6 children.
Yeah.
And now we have 20 grandchildren,
20?
10 grandsons and 10 granddaughters.
Yeah.
And, we're still relatively young for grandparents.
Yeah.
And we're able to really run along with them as much as possible. And it's really great. It's a blessing. Huge blessing.
It is a blessing. Yeah. Started early and look at you now. It's just amazing. And you've shared that major challenge. That's a Goliath for many. The loss of a spouse, loss of a child. As you know, Vern and I experienced a loss too a few years ago, so we understand it. We do understand it, and it's always with you. She just had her birthday just a few days ago, and it came back. But we're still going through it, and we're still holding on to our faith and knowing that we will see her again. We will, we're holding on to that, all of God's promises. So we move forward a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about your career too. So we talked enough about your challenges as a family, and you've overcome that. From a career standpoint, you had some fits and starts, right? So you started a few businesses, and then you got into this one, and I want to talk a little bit about that one. So can you tell us a little bit about the fits and starts?
Yeah, absolutely. I went off to college, went to Rice University. And I was offered a full scholarship at Rice University. So I went in to accept that scholarship. And in the discussion, they said there's one issue that we have to let you know, that this scholarship was provided by a foundation, and they believe that a student should be 100% focused. So you can't get married while you're in college. And of course, I thought about it a sec, because I was already married, and I wasn't expecting I'd get married again while I was in college.
Right. Yes, right.
But I understood the spirit of what they were saying, so I just told them, hey, I'm already married, and they withdrew the scholarship. So the point I was wanting to make there was just that meant that I had to find my way through myself, pay my way. We already were married with one child, and I went to school for a year at Rice and then a year at U of H. And what was really burning inside me was an entrepreneurial spirit, and I started off into business for myself and never actually graduated from university. But I had several businesses, some that did pretty well, and then some that crashed and burned, and then really crashed and burned hard in the mid-'80s in Houston, Texas. We're counter-cyclical with the country, and the oil business, collapsed, and that collapsed the rest of the economy. Real estate values went down 25%. At that point, I had a construction company with a partner, and we were like a masonry subcontracting company, and so we were at the bottom of the hill on those. When people get paid on a project, so when the money stopped flowing, we were at the bottom of the hill, and it was a really severe point. And at that point, I'm wondering how I'm even going to feed my own family. So, we were really at a point in life where, I was reaching back out. And, I said I came to faith when I was 19, but turning everything over to the Lord takes a time and effort and different stages of life to where you realize what this relationship is really supposed to be. And so I needed to get to that point where I was kind of at the end of myself again. And that's the point at which I really just said, I didn't want to be to the left or to the right. I wanted to be in the center of the Lord's will and stop trying to do it myself. And it was at that point that I ended up getting put in a situation. A lot of times you think, how do you end up in these situations that don't seem to make sense to you? But you're talking about having a sense of calling. And here's what happened to me. I ended up working at a labor relations consulting firm on a marketing project about how to market their seminars and some of their materials that they produced. So this was a labor relations consulting firm. So I was immersed into employment law for about 6 months. And that became a huge element of my foundation to recognize the whole potential of an industry in the human resources area of outsourcing the HR function for small and mid-sized businesses. So think of it this way. Me having my own small businesses, some successful, but some failing and some failing really bad, and then having all this employment law and HR background and the things that a lot of times cause businesses to fail, that led me to the potential of a company to help small businesses succeed by helping them with the people side of the business.
Look at God. Wow. Wow. So all of that, I'm thinking about the listeners, those people who may be going through a dark moment right now, those who may have started a business or maybe got a job and was laid off, those folks who need a little hope, a little inspiration right now. What's interesting about your story is how all of this came together for you, that, you had the fits and starts with the businesses. Now you're doing employment law, and look at God kind of put the pieces together for you. He just really put those together. And then it led to Administaff, right? Where you're helping small business owners, small, mid-sized business owners with all of their HR needs. You didn't see that coming. Right?
No, I really didn't. But the concept that God gives you desires of your heart to follow also. And, so for us, I thought people were heroes that started businesses and invested everything that they've saved or put money together and formed their own business. And our goal was to improve both the likelihood and degree of success, because we knew what a big challenge it is for entrepreneurs to be successful. And I always thought, why is it so hard? Isn't there some way to make it easier? And so for us to provide an infrastructure, and we came up with this brand new idea called co-employment, where we would go into a small company with 10 or 20 or 30 employees, and we would have the business owner sign an agreement with us where we could co-employ those people, and we could aggregate all these employees from many small companies onto one platform. We became, Administaff at that time, now Insperity, became the co-employer, and we were able to be the HR department, run the payroll, provide the benefits, do the government compliance, take a huge amount of administrative burden off a small business owner's plate and help them focus on running their business and help their people have the infrastructure so they could focus on their job every day as well. And we found that had an incredible effect. But the challenge was we didn't realize, we thought everybody would love this, but it turned out that government didn't like it very much, because co-employment was a brand new idea that broke up the history of employment law. And we literally had to fight for many, many years in state, federal court, state legislatures to pass laws. We had to create the infrastructure. When we started Administaff, we weren't just creating a company. We had to create an industry, because outsourcing the HR function did not exist.
Yeah. How amazing is that? How amazing is that? So in a sense, kind of created a whole industry here. PEO, the Professional Employee Organization, a whole industry that was birthed out of your empathy, having been a small business owner, having to really work on the HR while trying to focus on your business. And so you had that empathy, and then God put you in a spot for you. Did you say 6 months doing labor law? Is that what I said?
Yeah, it was a 6 month project.
Wow.
And, I was immersed into that. And, I really, it put a foundation in me of understanding that helped in a lot of ways for a lot of years. So you just never know where the Lord's going to put you. But all these pieces are going to add up together. And I always encourage people to really focus on a sense of calling. Go ahead and look through your life and say, wait a minute, does everything I've done, what have I done, and what does it add up to? And does it make me feel like I'm in a position where I can really devote myself? Because too many people have one foot on the gas and one on the brake. That's why I say it's not a job, because that's just trading your time for money. That's the worst situation to be in. It shouldn't even be a career, because a career mindedness looks at every place you're at as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. Not that it's bad to have stepping stones, but you need to see everything you're in as a sense of calling, where you can give yourself into that fully today. Whatever comes next, you'll give yourself fully in that too. But it's really important to look at each and every day as how are you giving your very best to what you're doing.
Yeah. No, that's good. So, in my book, Run Toward Your Goliaths, I talk about this, find your rhythm. That's a section in the book, find your rhythm. And I talk about explore some things. I'm encouraging people to go out and explore some things. And as you're exploring, you're going to get some signs. There are going to be some senses that you'll feel, that you'll know that's like, this is comfortable. God will stretch you a little bit. You'll get in kind of in an uncomfortable situation, but it becomes comfortable. God is stretching you. It's God's stretching process, as I described. So as you're going through that, Paul, can you help us understand, how do you know when it's your calling? How do you know that? What are the senses? What are the feelings? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's really good. The first step, of course, is to take an inventory, to look at what has happened in your life and look at what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I also think one thing that's really was important for me was to switch my mindset on how to look at failure. Too many people let failure be a stumbling block, and then it becomes a fear of failure that keeps you from being able to really invest yourself in your calling. But once I got to the point where I saw failure was actually just learning, I started to realize that, wait a minute, this is, fail fast became my motto, because that's learning fast.
That's right.
And I think if you think about, if you think of a baby, when they're at that age where you hold a rattle or something out in front of them and they reach for it and they reach to one side and miss, reach to another side and miss, and ultimately they grab it. And what happened was they failed, they succeeded. And then their memory is of how they were able to succeed. And that's what we have to make sure we focus on, that our failures are just learning how to succeed.
I love that. Yeah. You're very learning oriented too, so that really fits you. And that's such wisdom to pass on. Our listeners, by the way, are worldwide. We've got people worldwide listening to Victory Groove. And I know there are people at different stages, right? So they're kind of exploring a little bit. I think about my grandson, who's a sophomore in college right now, and I'm talking to him, and he's trying to explore. Papa, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I had dinner with him last night. I said, I just got excited because he doesn't know where he's going to go, but he's putting it all in where he is right now. And he's embraced this idea of really learning from failure. And I'm reinforcing that concept too in my own family. It's okay to fail. Learn from that. Move on. Just keep walking. Keep walking by faith, not by sight. Right? So that's just an amazing testimony here that you're sharing. And it's easy to say now, but when we're in that moment, when we're in that dark moment where we don't see a way out, all right? And I know you've been there too. I certainly have too. In a moment where you just don't see the way out, but God brings you back into the light if you just continue walking by faith. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely do. Because when you're, moving ahead in your calling, there's going to be things come out of left field. There's going to be, things come out of every direction. That's just life. And so you have to go by faith. You have to, faith is acting on what you know in your spirit that you've heard. And, you have to walk that out and continue, even though it's maybe dark and stormy right in front of you. So, I've always felt that, it's important to have that sense of calling, to know why you're doing what you're doing. And that helps you to actually be willing to push through the obstacles that come your way. For me, for example, I felt so strongly about helping businesses succeed so communities prosper. That became our mission statement, because I thought the impact of small and medium-sized businesses in every community, lifts that community up so strongly, providing employment, providing volunteerism, providing financial support to the Little League or whatever else. It's amazing how the small business community is such an unbelievable thing in the whole world in terms of economic growth, development, and success for individuals. And so, to me, it was worth it if I could make a difference. So I ask you, how do you want to make a difference? And do you have a target group that you feel an affinity toward, that you want to help? Those are things that really contribute to a sense of calling that is strong enough to overcome challenges that I guarantee are going to come your way.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right. I have a pastor that says, if your why is big enough, it'll help you with the what. It puts the what in perspective, and that's what you're saying too, that why. I'm thinking about the folks who are graduating college, recently. They've graduated, or those who will be going on the market, and they're looking for companies to join, and Insperity is such a great company. Of course, I'm biased. It's a great company, and it is wonderful. You had some interns this summer, right? How many interns? 20 or so?
I think we had 22 or something like that.
Yeah. And when you think about it, there are folks trying to decide, okay, which industry should I start with? Within that industry, which company should I start? And more, what we're finding, and you and I have had this conversation, we've got folks who are graduating college and they're thinking, I'm going to go to a company that gives back to society. If they have multiple job offers, they tend to go with that company that's giving back. And Insperity is doing it in such amazing ways. That's part of it. You actually give time to the employees to go out and serve the community as well. So it's a great company, youngsters. Those people who are looking for another career, Insperity is a really good place to start. And you have such a heart for people, and it comes through. It comes through so clearly. You've got your book, Take Care of Your People. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. This was also just an effort. I felt like after, we have had such tremendous success over the years. We took the company public in 1997 on the New York Stock Exchange. I've been the CEO of this company, from the beginning, all the way through now more than 25 years as a public company. So I've seen every stage and every phase of what it takes to be a business leader, a CEO at different sizes of companies, different stages of the business. And, I really wanted to explain what it meant to have a people strategy. When I look at businesses, you have to have a good financial plan. You got to have a good operating plan. You have to have a great sales plan. You have to have a good technology plan. You really need a very strong people plan. In most companies, that's the last one they work on. So I wanted to put together a book that was more of a roadmap on how to develop a people strategy. And I called it Take Care of Your People, because if that becomes your mindset, if you'll take care of your people, they will take care of your business. Trust me. They will take care of the customers. They will take care of the vendors. They will take care of everything that comes up in the company if you are focused on taking care of them and have built a good, strong people strategy.
Yeah. And this is not lip service. This is real. I mean, we've been in meetings talking about this very, very thing. And, when I kind of going back to Administrator for just a bit. So, you and your co-founders started looking at the back of an envelope. I think you started drawing out some of the things that you'd like to see in a company. And this people strategy, being people-centric, was part of that, if I remember that right. It was just the two of you and a couple of telephones, and you guys were starting to make all these calls to business owners and talking about the value proposition. And today, you have 4,000 employees, and that's pretty amazing. 4,000, and you are taking care of your people. I'm right there with you when you're making these people decisions and promoting from within, and yet that whole strategy is working very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you get the people part right, then it's such an amazing thing because the culture we are what I call a values based, culture driven, people centric company, and those three elements, I believe, you know, affect not only your likelihood of success, your degree of success, but your speed of execution, your your success in terms of attracting the right people. Think of what an asset it is if you end up with a momentum in attracting the best people. I mean, the way I look at it is every person that joins our company, I get so excited about it because they change the potential for our business. I believe so much in the potential of every individual person and their worth and their value, their creativity, their idea. Think of it, one idea from one person can completely change the trajectory of your company. So I look at each individual like that, and that is what helps us end up with a culture-driven organization with incredible resiliency, incredible individual discretionary effort, great collaboration among individuals and teams, great innovation, and always a desire to improve and get better. And most importantly to me, and I believe is really important for CEOs, your real job is alignment. Can you create alignment in your organization where you can direct them at objectives and targets and goals, and they can perform? That becomes your role.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your entire team stepped up. I'm thinking about the most recent Goliath that we went through as a society, and that's the pandemic, the global pandemic, COVID. And I know, we had a lot of our clients coming to your team asking, okay, what are we going to do now? And you all were trying to figure it out, but you stuck to your values, being people-centric. All right, you stuck to those values. And you're an optimist, which is amazing. I remember talking to you during COVID. You said, we're going to pull out of this and we're going to do these things and it's going to be better. Can you walk us through that little bit of it, going through a pandemic, and how strong your culture is and how your people were able to solve the clients' problems?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, first and foremost, because we have that culture where we are completely devoted to our clients, these small and medium-sized business owners, and our mission of helping businesses succeed so communities prosper. We could see very clearly all communities were suffering, all communities were at risk, all of our clients needed help. Our inquiries, calls from clients tripled, and the average length of time for these calls doubled. In addition, everything was landing in the HR department. First of all, everybody having to work from home instead of working from the office. All of a sudden you had, how are people going to get, they're not able to get benefits or go to doctors, or now they need telemedicine, or what are they going to do to deal with things day in and day out? We had issues around, all of a sudden there's a shutdown of businesses, and you've got new policies and practices to put in place. You had the, loan program from the government, the PPP loans. What are you supposed to provide? You had to provide payroll information to get a loan to keep paying your people. These were one crisis after another landing in the HR department. And, plus you think of what was going on emotionally to all of your employees and families and business owners saying, how do I take care of my people now? I don't even see them every day. And we still got to try to keep this company going, try to keep some revenue going. And so this was a huge challenge. But because we had people who already knew why they were doing what they were doing, like you talked about a little earlier, Eli, that they just did whatever it took. And we were able to go through an amazing time period. Even when I think of as things that the anxiety was so high, and then the George Floyd incident took place. And now you had a whole nother, the history of racial tension, surfacing in an incredible way, that added a whole nother layer. But I'll just say that our people demonstrated what the value of a sophisticated HR function is for any business during a crisis. But it's also that value all the time. And our customers really realized it. And so it became, like many times, challenges that you have to go through can become a huge opportunity to grow, to demonstrate your the essence of what you are and what value you are to your customer, and that can then multiply your success going into the future.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Wow, this time has gone by so fast, and there's so much here, folks. Trust me, you're listening to 30 minutes, and you're listening to the heart of a servant leader who is just truly, truly amazing. And I'm just so happy to be with you, Paul, and thank you so much for participating in Victory Groove. And clearly you have found your calling. There's no question about it. Look this guy up. Google him. Paul Savardi, Sarvadi, and look at the company, Insperity, Insperity, Insperity.com. An amazing guy, an amazing company. We already have the victory. We just need to get our groove back.
Thanks, Eli. I appreciate it.
Thank you.